All right, for this lesson, we're going to be finishing up chapter 9 with section 4, choosing a data display. So what we're really going to be focusing on is when it's best to use a specific type of graph. When is it better to use a circle graph, or when is it better to use a bar graph, or a line graph, or a scatter plot, or really there are many, many different graphs to choose from, but usually there's one best option to do. So let's look at activity 1, and we are on page 197 of your workbook, section 9.4. So part A, roadkill. It says a group of schools in New England participated in a 2-month study and reported 3,962 dead animals. And it tells you of each kind. There were 307 birds, 2,746 mammals, 145 amphibians, 75 reptiles, and 689 unknown. That's interesting. So the best type of graph to use, because they gave us a total number of dead animals that were recorded. So I'm going to say probably the best option to do for this one would be a circle graph. And the reasoning behind that is because it shows the part of the whole. Okay, it would really show you how many birds out of the entire number of dead animals were found in mammals and amphibians and so on. So it would really give you a breakdown of how it relates to the total number of roadkill that were recorded. Okay, on part B, black bear roadkill. The data below shows the numbers of black bears killed on a state's roads from 1993 to 2012. Okay, so we have numbers of black bears that were killed. So in 93, there were 30 bears killed on a state road. In 94, there were 37. In 95, there were 46, and so on. Okay, for this one, I would say probably the best choice would be a scatter plot. Okay, I could also see it being a bar graph and done that way. I think a scatter plot would be best because it shows the relationship over time. Notice everything here is in years. So it would really show that relationship over time, and if it's increasing, decrease, or if there's really just no relationship at all. All right, moving on to the next one. C, raccoon roadkill. A 1-week study along a 4-mile section of road found the following weights in pounds of raccoons that had been killed by vehicles. So there were, let's see, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 32 raccoons that have been recorded, and these are the weights of each one that had been killed by a vehicle on the road. So when we're looking at the best data display to use for this one, a type of graph you probably haven't used a lot of, but it's probably the best option here, would be a stem and leaf plot. Okay, because in that way it can show a wide range of numbers. And what happens in a stem and leaf plot is you have a big line down the middle, and you basically put that line, in this case, would serve as like the decimal point. So like for 13.4, we would put 13 on this side and then 4 on this side. And then anything else that would have 13, so like 0.6, I would just add a 6 after it. 13.9. I would just add a 9. So this would represent 13.4, 13.6, 13.9. So it kind of shows everything broken down. Really easy to find mean, median, mode, range, those kind of things. All right, let's look at D. What do you think can be done to minimize the number of animals killed by vehicles? Okay, so what I want you to do is take a moment. I want you to jot down at least 2 things that you think could be done to help minimize the number of animals killed by vehicles. So go ahead and pause the video. You may have a question pop up over to the side to have you record one of your answers, but then we'll be able to move on. All right. Now, activity 2, Endangered Species Project. We're not going to worry about using the internet or other reference to write a report, but here we're talking about deer in Florida. Florida key deer, and it says in 1939, Florida banned the hunting of key deer. The numbers of key deer fell to about 100 in the 1940s. Okay. Coming on down. The next page. In 1947, public sentiment was stirred by 11-year-old Glenn Allen from Miami. He organized Boy Scouts and others in a letter-writing campaign that led to the establishment of the National Key Deer Refuge in 1957. The approximately 8,600-acre refuge includes 2,280 acres of designated wilderness. The Key Deer Refuge has increased the population of key deer, and a recent study was done, and it estimated the total key deer population to be approximately 800. So it went from being 100 in the 1940s up to 800. Okay? Okay, now like I said, we're not going to worry about actually going through and doing that whole project, but it makes you think about what can happen when one person, one student takes charge of something and finds a way to make it better or find a solution to a problem. Now, let's look down at number 3. What is your answer? It says, how can you display data in a way that helps you make decisions? Okay, and then what we're also going to answer is, how can it help you? How can using a specific data display help you answer questions about that data? So they've given us some ideas: bar graph, circle graph, scatter plot, stem and leaf plot, box and whisker plot. These last 2 are probably ones you're not as familiar with, but different types of graphs. So what I want to focus on for this question is, how can making a data display, how can using the right data display help you when you are looking at that set of data? So, a couple things. It can help you make conclusions. Okay, if you're looking at something that you bought and maybe inventory that you have left over, looking at the data, what can we do better next year? Do we need to order as many? Do we not need to order as many? So making conclusions about that specific data that you collected. And then just in general, it can help you interpret the data. Figure out exactly what it means and really see the numbers. For those of you who are more visual learners, looking at graphs and reading graphs is a lot easier than maybe just looking at a list of numbers or something like that, to have it all organized in one place. All right, so that sums up the pages in the workbook that we're going to go through together in the video. So you'll refer back to your Canvas page for what your actual exact assignment will be that goes along with this.